Hi everybody, today's special guest is Jill Cunningham from Mortimer Primary School. Jill, would you like to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, as Graham said, I'm Jill Cunningham, head teacher of Mortimer Primary School, which is a large three-form entry school in South Shields. Currently, it has 610 children and 78 place nursery, so there's an awful lot of children there. And we are also a teaching school, which means that we can train our own postgraduate students into teachers.
Fab, I should be honest at this stage and say that I have a conscious and an unconscious bias towards Mortimer. One being an ex-pupil there in 1926 or somewhere around that, because that's how it feels these days. And second of all, spending 5 or 6 years as a governor there as well. So anything that I say is going to be really positive towards the school. That's because the school's really good. Jill, you've been head now for, is it 3 years?
No, it's not quite 3 years now. No, it's just over 1.5 years, actually. It's been a long time because we've had a lot of hurdles to go over. But yes, acting head and then head for just over 1.5 years now.
Okay, fab. And Jeff probably left it just at the right time. He must have known this virus was coming.
Yeah, I think he had a crystal ball and he knew what was happening, and he just went off into the sunset. Yeah.
Fab, let's start with there because I guess there's been a huge transition over the last decade between teachers who have migrated into the world of deputy headship and headship. You guys are no longer just teachers anymore. You're business professionals running a multi-million-pound business in some situations. How have you made that transition, or how have you found that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked very closely because I was deputy head first of all, so I worked very closely with the head, which was always CPD for me. It was always my training. Decisions were always made jointly. There was nothing that was his job and my job. It was both of our jobs. So when I moved into headship, I found the transition quite easy, to be honest, and it meant that I could now offload a lot of my things onto my new deputy. So the transition for me has been quite easy. Obviously, we have training and support from the local authority as well, and obviously other heads in the town who I can just pick up the phone to and speak off the record, if I've got a problem or whatever else. So no, the transition for myself has been fine. What we do like to do is ensure that everybody gets a little chance to shine, even the NQTs. I think when I started teaching, which is 27 years ago, you had to sort of sit and wait your turn. You couldn't speak in the staff room until you'd been there a good year. And then you had to wait until it was your turn. But now it is very much that if you've got a talent and you want to share that talent, or if you want to climb the ladder, and you're prepared to do it, we'll have those opportunities open at Mortimer, and I think that's across the local authority as well. That it's not a matter of how long you've done it now; it's how good you are at doing it. And we really try to ensure that our staff have those opportunities to shine if they want to.
Fab, and here's my bias question number one, and I think I'm now starting to subconsciously count how many times I'm going to be biased towards Mortimer, but it is a fab school. It's a great building, the staff are brilliant, and the kids generally are really nice kids as well, aren't they? So it's a nice area, so that must help a little bit.
Oh, massively. As you've said, the children are an absolute delight. All visitors that come into school, in all times that we go anywhere as a school visit, we're always commended on our children's behaviour. It's just exemplary. It really is. It's fantastic. It's a lovely place to work. Most of our staff who have got children of school age, their children come to Mortimer as well. So we have got a little bit of a creche going on in the morning with staff's children who are all positioned all places over the school. My 2 children went to Mortimer as well. It has got a very family feel. Even though it's a very large school, you feel at home as soon as you get there. I suppose a downside of that is that we get very, very low staff transition. Staff tend to start their career at Mortimer and end their career at Mortimer because they don't want to move on, because it is such a nice school. We recently had the Investors in People accreditation, and it was worked out that our average year's service given that we had 2 brand new members of staff, only started 2 months before, our average time was 12 years. So I think that's, that all helps with the, the feeling that Mortimer has, that it is a family, all support staff, all teaching staff. But as well, we're very conscious, and I'm very conscious, that we don't want to stand still. And we need to bring new blood in, and we need to keep moving. And I think that's where the teaching school comes in, that we are innovative, we keep on moving, and keep on striving for better and better and better.
Good. Got a good question about staff in relationship to their personal well-being and their own development as well. One of the things I found over the last 4 billion years that I've been working in business education and sport is that business people tend to have business coaches and executive coaches. Sports people tend to have sports coaches, personal psychologists, nutritionists. Teachers tend to do a lot of stuff teachery, but forget a little bit about themselves. Have you guys, especially within the last decade where mental health and well-being is such a pivotal thing in society, are you guys doing anything regarding supporting the teachers to develop things which are external to the curriculum?
Yeah, for themselves.
Yeah.
For themselves, yeah. Well, we are. I mean, that is something that, as leader, I've got to ensure that we are, looking at in mental health and well-being. And as you say, you're dead right, that teachers love on a weekend looking for new resources.
Yeah.
Rather than doing something for themselves. And I've been down that route, and I've done it as well. I suppose what we do at Mortimer, I ensure that the school closes before 5:30 every night. It's usually about 5 o'clock, because otherwise some teachers would be there until until whatever. But we also, I know it sounds a bit, but I also offer 1 late night opening. And if they want to stay on a late night, you can stay, you can do whatever you want, but you're not allowed to take any work home that night. So it's all done in school. We've got a mental health and wellbeing pastoral lead, who not only is there for the children, but is there for the staff as well. And we work very closely with the Healthy Minds team, which is a team that's set up in South Tyneside. And again, she's the lady who comes along from there. It's not just for the children, they're there for the staff as well. So we're just, whatever we can to do it to encourage. I mean, we have, if it's a parents' evening, we tend not to have a staff meeting that week, and try to, it's got to be a work life balance, and it is difficult, especially in some year groups that have tend to take more things home. For example, year 6, in the spring term, it's a lot of hard work for them. So we give them maybe an extra hour's PP just to catch up on the marking during the week. So yeah, we'll have to. I am very aware of that. I've been marking books when I've had 2 babies and cots, and it's just so I've been there.
Yeah, it's still a very stressed profession, and the anxiety levels are quite high, and the time that it takes to mark books and prepare things are really big as well. And I do a lot of work in emotional intelligence and resilience, and whilst they're quite buzzwordy, they're quite transferable between business education and sport as well. So one of the programs that we run is something called the G10 program that looks at the emotional intelligence of teachers specifically, and that work-life balance. So I was talking to a member of the police force, and I do a lot of work with Northumbria Police, and they were saying that it's really interesting when you work for institutions that when it comes to be really stressful, they don't want you in, and you're the first person that goes. And I was telling a story last night about, I was working in an institution where it was an educational institution, and they got the phone call saying that Ofsted were coming in, and no, it wasn't Jeff, I don't think. And they just went, Graham, Ofsted are coming in, you can't come in tomorrow. And I said, well, why? And they're like, well, Ofsted are coming in, everybody's going to be stressed. And I'm like, well, you're paying me to work on your emotional intelligence, to work on the stress levels of your staff, to bring it down so that they can perform at an optimum level. This is the right time for me to be in, isn't it? And they were like, no, it's Ofsted, get out.
I think the Ofsted thing does unfortunately fall over your head, but it's something that's there, and it's got to be done. I mean, we, as an outstanding school, we weren't on the Ofsted cycle for a long time. And when the news broke, I was actually training for the Great North Run at the time, and I find it easier if I get dropped off somewhere a long way from home, so the only way I can get home is to run home, and I find that's what works for me. So I was dropped off 14 miles from home, put my radio in, and the first thing I heard on the radio was the announcement that outstanding schools are now back on the Ofsted rota, and I was 14 miles away from home at this point, and I had to run back with this news in my ear. But it has to happen, and it does, and it is something. But you know, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Was that a fast 14 miles? Or was it a slow 14 miles?
It was very slow. It was slow.
Not just mentally, or was that time-wise?
Yes, both.
Fab, and I'm glad you brought up running, because I know you do quite a lot of running, and that's maybe your escape. That's your time to let the mind just think through things, but also physically keep your body in good shape as well, for you to be in your A game. And that's a really important thing for any industry, is that if the teachers are not on their A game because of either emotional intelligence, stress, anxiety, the kids and the parents will pick that up as well, won't they?
Of course they will. Of course they will, yes. I mean, we do have most of the staff that come through the front door and they leave home behind, and that they've now got their work face on. But at times it does spill over, and you've got to be very, very aware of that, ensuring that everybody has got the support that they needed. We can refer to occupational health, and we can use outside sources that the school obviously support. But it is something that is on the increase, I suppose. That it's no longer a job where you would go into the staff room, have a cup of coffee, have a chat at playtime, and then spend an hour and a half at lunchtime back in the staff room. That doesn't happen now. There's no time for that. So what I find is important, that you have to go to the staff room at least once a day. You have to have a chat. Yeah, you know, I would like you to do that. And some people are like, I haven't got time. No, I would really like you to make time just to have a chat with people. Yeah. And it pays off.
I suppose as the conversation's just come up there, we should mention that it is Mental Health Awareness Week this week. UK Coaching, who's the government's coach education arm, have released an online program with Mind, which is free of charge, and it's not sports related. It's just related to, you know, all kinds of different mental health. So if anybody does pick up this video and watches it, then it's a really good download, and it's free to do. So it's normally £18. It's a good time to do that now. And I will mention the fact that I've just done my 25 press-ups for suicide awareness. This is day 5, and the little spaghetti arms are a little bit wobbly this morning.
We did an assembly last year on Healthy Minds, during Healthy Minds Week, and suicide, and it's something that maybe with the younger children it was. So what we decided to do was to use laughter as a way of making people feel better. So we did a week's long, it was hard, a week's long jokes with the children, and they brought their favourite joke in. We did it in the hall. We had a clapometer. The loudest clap won the joke, and the infants thought it was hilarious. Would you like me to share the infant winner with you? This is you are rolling around in the aisles of this one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What do you call the dog that lies in front of the fire? It's hilarious when you're 4. A hot dog.
Very good. Very good. I like that. Yeah, we might need to do some work on jokes, because my friend delivered a little package, because we're in Shielding at the moment with Jessica, as you well know. So we got a little package outside the door, and the postman ran off, and we opened it, and it was a little package for Jessica, and it was a joke book for 6-year-olds. So I said, right, sweetheart, should we just go through some of these jokes? And I'm sitting reading them, and she's looking at me going, that's not even funny. Okay, maybe it's my delivery, Jill. Maybe it's just the delivery and not the joke. But let's get back to the kids, because they're probably important. And we've done this whole week. We've literally looked at primary school, secondary school, college, and we've looked at university, and we've looked at a school sports partnership as well. So we've tried to cover all of the transitions that kids are going to go through before they actually enter what I guess is the real world of their working life. But primary school is probably the most important, isn't it, in terms of getting the right grounding?
Absolutely, yes. Not everybody would agree with that, but yes, absolutely. The right
grounding.
grounding.
Question number 2.
Well done. We are the foundations. We are the building blocks. What we like to do at school is, first of all, just ensure that what they're getting isn't put the curriculum to one side. Let's just think about the ethos of school first of all. So from day one, the children are told, and I think Jessica should know these as well if you do ask her, at Mortimer, they know the 3 things that we follow, and that's to do something kind every day, because kind people are the best kind of people. That's the first one. Be polite and always use your manners, because please and thank you are magic words. And work with your best, do your best effort, but being the best isn't necessarily as important as doing your best. So those 3 things we instill in the children all the time, and then we start working on the curriculum and on the building blocks. So eventually when they leave year 6, they've got fantastic wings to fly, and they're ready for the next part of their education. Doesn't matter on the background, doesn't matter on the gender, they've all been given the opportunities to fly, and that's what we are really proud of at Mortimer.
Yeah, the kind one I really like, and with all these 30 interviews that I've done in this month, the one thing that's come out a little bit, and it probably started with the book Legacy by the New Zealand All Blacks. I don't know if you've read that. And one of their key traits is better people make better All Blacks. And I've always said better people just generally make better people. And if you can be kind, that makes you probably a little bit of a better person. And Jessica, I think, has nailed that one. The third one that you said there about trying your best, I'm not quite sure. She doesn't like losing very often. And she's in a slightly competitive family, so it's going to be tough.
I was going to say that might have something to do with her dad, though, mightn't it?
Yeah, and Mum as well. Mum used to run Great Britain too, so I'm not. She's in a bit of trouble here. We managed to dig out the Wii because we're in shielding, and I dug out the Wii and we put on Wii bowling, and she's actually the second best bowler in the family, which is quite good. But then all of a sudden, it just gets to be a little bit competitive now. If Dad wins, she's not happy.
Happy.
Yeah, we're not talking about Mum's bowling skills at this moment in time. Never mind. So we've been talking about emotional intelligence with teachers, and we've been talking about resilience with teachers as well. It's certainly been a changing environment over the last decade, and kids are certainly being brought into that world of stress and anxiety and mental health as well, aren't they? What have you seen have been the big key differences, and what is Mortimer trying to do to try to encourage more positive mindsets within some of the kids?
I mean, personally, I put a lot down to social media. Children are accessing things that they are just far too young to access, and they haven't got the intelligence to even start to process that. Even down, and I mean, obviously not Facebook because they're not meant to be on Facebook now, but all of the social media, the WhatsApp groups, then, you know, I don't feel that is helpful for them at times. It is sometimes, and I suppose at this time where we're all in lockdown, it is proven very helpful because they can all chat to each other. But there are times when I find that that is just a little bit overload. We've got Kids Safe, teacher at school who is trained in ensuring children are safe online, but not just safe from exploit, but safe from the bullying and we call it at Mortimer. It is a recognised award, which is called it's the Kids Safe Award, and it's if you've got any kind of yucky feelings, and that's the word that we talk about. So if your tummy hurts because you've read something that you haven't liked, or any, because children sometimes don't even know what anxiety is. They think they've got a pain in their tummy and they don't actually understand what it is. So we refer to it as a yucky feeling. Do you just not feel right? So we have a lot of assemblies around this. The children are very well used to it, and they know who to go to if they feel at all that something's not quite right with them. And they all know that they have a trusted adult to go to. Might not be a teacher, might be their mum, might be their dad, but they all know that they have got a trusted adult, and we absolutely instill that you must talk about it if you don't feel right.
And this is probably a very yucky time for all of the kids out there, isn't it? Because whether you're primary school or secondary school, is that you're going to be feeling a little bit isolated. Even if you can go out for that 1 hour a day or maybe 2 hours a day, it's not the same as what it was in terms of that human contact, which they're used to. And especially in primary school, the kids like a cuddle and you know, like to be surrounded by their friends and things like that. Any recommendations for helping any of the parents out or any of the kids at this moment in time to get through this period?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is I think for very young children, it's a very scary thing to say that you might get this virus, or your nana might get this virus, and then she's going to be in hospital. I think that's very scary. So what we've been trying to do is just to bring the positives to it all, that, you know, we might not be able to be together, but look at this. So each day on the website, I put a letter up, which you might have read. It's hardcore, but every day, and it's not about COVID-19. It's just anything nice that I can think about, you know, talking about. All of our children have been contacted by the teacher, whether it's a phone call or whether it's through the Google Drive or Tapestry or the other devices that we use. We've also delivered packs to all of the children, hand-delivered packs, and where possible, knocked on the door, had a little wave and run, so that the children know that we're here, and know that there isn't going to be an end to this. And I think that's what we've kept telling the parents, that I've been kept telling them over my letters as well. Yes, it is a long tunnel, but we will get out of it, and we will look back on it, and hopefully we're going to come out of it better people, in a better place.
Yeah, and I agree. And I guess one of the things over the last decade that people have said about this current generation of younger kids is that they're not very resilient. Well, maybe they haven't had any events that they've had to actually make themselves resilient. You know, so that there's no world war, there's no miners' strike, there's no real poverty in this area. So therefore, actually, maybe this is now an event that will just give them some natural resilience, that they don't have to necessarily go and train and practice. And I guess there's two people, isn't there? There's the type person who has inbuilt resilience that they've gained either through parents or the environment or through events, or there's those who need to go and train and work on it and practice it and try a little bit harder. So this might just be giving all of this generation that little bit of inbuilt resilience that they've maybe never had before.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're very right. And it will be something that I'm sure will be looked back on and will be studied. It might very well mean that we don't now do World War II in Key Stage 2 anymore. We might very well do this, because it's so out of the blue and so not expected, but so massive at the same time. So it very well might mean a change in the curriculum eventually.
Yeah, I can't wait for 50 years' time when I'm probably not going to be here, Jill. I might still be around, actually, when people are looking back on time capsules. And they're going to go, right, let's have a look at that YouTube time capsule of Mortimer Primary School interview.
Well, I've got my mum's comes in. She talks to our year 6 about living through World War II, and so I wheel her in every year. She brings out all of her things that she's but so now, yes, so I've now carved out that job. In another 50 years' time, it's going to be me, and I'm going to go in with my Zimmer frame and talk about the pandemic and how we coped at Mortimer.
Brilliant. So we've talked staff and we've talked kids. At this moment in time, probably we should have a quick chat on parents, because they're probably stressed and quite anxious right now. And we've got 2 PGCE certificates in this house, and we're not particularly doing very well at this moment in time. As Jessica said the other day, I hate mom being my teacher, but dad's really good. And she said that to Miss Beattie, so it's on record and I'm taking it.
Oh, that's so funny.
But it's not that easy. It's not that easy as a parent, even with our backgrounds within education, being able to support your child day in, day out over, I think, what is maybe 60 odd days that we've been in now.
I mean, but that's not the relationship that really is the natural relationship. It's not sitting down and here you go, I'm going to give you the work. And it is very, very different for all parents. And I do know that some parents are finding it overwhelming, the amount of things that they've got to do. And all I keep saying is, you know, don't worry if you don't do it one day. It's very hard. It's difficult to get motivated when you're working from home. I find it difficult to get motivated on my days that I'm not in work. Just little and often is great. Even just sharing a book, that's you know, that's all we would want. Great if you can do all of the work, but don't be stressed if you can't, because that's not what it's about. It's about, you know, just being there, making sure that you're just doing a little and often.
Yeah, I think it's about finding your rhythm. And you mentioned they're working from home, and I heard a really nice phrase the other day which said, nobody is working from home. Everybody's just home trying to do some work, with kids running around and Netflix on as well.
Yes, it is impossible. I mean, my 2 are now older. They're 21 and 23, but they're both home from university. And And it's just like the old days again, except they're bigger. So they've had, we had the falling out, a huge fight, the pair of them, over the smell of butter. So I had to get involved, and come on, girls, they had to make up. So no, they just get any easier. They just get older. So yeah, we're all just trying to do it as well. Yesterday's Zoom call that I had my daughter on the other side of the screen trying to make me laugh. She's not there today, thankfully, because she got into trouble. But it happens. It happens.
And I regularly work from home, but not with a wife and small child running around. So it is just completely different, and it's about finding your rhythm and finding out what works best for you as a unit. So we started off where we literally had all of the work from Miss Beattie, and we were like, let's plow through this and get it done in the day. It's too much. So then we started going, well, actually, we'll do a little bit here, then we'll do a little bit of playtime, then we'll do a little bit more. And then because I'm either working a half day and the wife's working the other half a day, and we're splitting it like that, what we've then done is that we do a little bit in the morning, then we do a load of play, then we do a little bit in the afternoon, then we do a load of play.
Yeah. And what children get from play is what they get from play. And I think sometimes that is forgotten on parents as well. If you play a board game with them, that is fantastic. That's a maths lesson in itself. If you do snakes and ladders with them, it hasn't got to be sitting down with a worksheet. They're learning from you as parents the entire time. You just interacting with them is more important than just them sitting watching a screen.
Yeah, well, I worked abroad for 9-10 years in a variety of different countries. So one of the things that we've been doing with Jessica is we've been saying, okay, Daddy worked there, and this is how long he was there. And then I've been Zoom contacting with people who live in that country, and she's starting to see different cultures, different languages, just different voices. Then we've been looking at the map a little bit and finding out about that, which for me is good education at the same time, isn't it?
I've always said I do maths training for parents at school, and they come along and they say, yeah, I was never very good at maths when I was at school. And I said, that's not what it's about. If you can pair socks, if you can set the telly to record something at a certain time, if you can make Yorkshire puddings, or if you can cook, or if you can follow a recipe, you're doing maths. You're doing maths. There's an activity that I do with some of the boys in year 6 that I work with who are a little bit sometimes disaffected with maths. So I'll put up a news report about an England football game, and it'll be written by me. And hey, boys, I've written this. It's not very good. Can you put it right for me? And it's the pitch was quite big, and the goals were scored from sort of around the halfway area. I've got it all wrong. I've got no statistics in it at all. And the boys are like, oh, we're good. The game lasted for however long the game usually lasts. And they're like, Mrs Cunningham, I can put all this right for you. And before we know it, they're writing, they're putting the numbers in, the capacity of the ground, how many people were looking on, how far out they thought the goal came from, what minutes the goals were scored. So at the end of it, they're like, and I say, you don't tell anybody that, mind you haven't done any maths. Oh, we're not. Actually have. Anything like that you can do. If it's numbers, it's maths.
Great way to get them to engage in numeracy and literacy, because they're engaged. They've got some interest there, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything coming from their ideas, and I think that's where the curriculum has changed from the old days where we had to follow the national curriculum to the letter. Our curriculum is based on things that are current and things that happen. So if it snows, we don't teach them about what we're going to teach them that day. Let's talk about the snow, and we are allowed to do that now. We've got a lot more flexibility as heads in order to do that, which I think is great. So just take advantage of whatever is happening in and around you. So today I'll be hoping that everybody's outside playing in the sunshine, have a water fight.
I'm already outside. That's it for the day now. I'm stuck here. All my meetings are out here. And by the way, I got a bit of peace and quiet outside as well. No, with parents, so I think that's really, really good. And in terms of getting them to think about a variety of different things, because as you guys know, if you're stressed as a parent, and if you're anxious as a parent, how you communicate is going to be completely different, and therefore the education's being lost anyway. All it does is it breaks down the communication between parent and child. It ends up in World War III, and therefore actually nothing
I
gets
suggest
done.
that the parents made a staff room of their own over this time as well. So, and the children had to knock to go in. So I have had some funny replies on Facebook about where their staff rooms actually are. A lot of them tend to be the bathroom and they've locked the door.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that one. I'll just make that little note. So we've literally nailed the school. We've nailed teachers and teacher development, emotional intelligence, resilience. We've done the kids in terms of their progression as well. And then we've done a little bit on terms of getting the parents through this process. My last question is around, we've got some year sixes who are going to be making the transition into secondary school this year. With the secondary school teachers and the college educationists, which I've talked to this week, we've talked a lot about transitions. Now, a normal year as a year six, you're the biggest kid in the school, probably the smartest, you have the biggest network of friends, you know the system, you have a 6 to 7 week window, which we call the summer holidays, and then you're in the land of the giants. Now, normal transitions, I know you guys work with some of the secondary schools to, you know, to filter them in and get them having trial days and things like that. What are your recommendations at this moment in time for this period? And do you guys, you probably have about 101 different variables because we don't know what's going to happen, but what's your thoughts?
What's going to happen in terms of them physically going to their new school, which they would normally do. But we are still talking to the staff. In fact, after this, I'm popping into work to talk to the head of year 7 from one of our schools. So we talk about every single child. We don't talk about them as groups. We go through every single child, how they work at school, what their needs are, whether they've got any social needs, any special needs, anything at all. So we have a long conversation with the comp staff about that. Now, I don't know whether we are going to, I don't know. I don't know whether they're going to get a visit before the 6 weeks holidays or not, or whether they're just going to have to start maybe in a phased return in September. I've got absolutely no idea. But what we are making sure is that those children have got messages. We're keeping them updated on the Google Drive. We know the children who haven't accessed the Google Drive, so we will phone them, just making sure that they're happy, they feel secure, they know that we haven't just abandoned them. What we will make sure is that they are put into friendship groups, so nobody's just going to be at a school in a class with the people that they don't know, and ensuring that, I think possibly this year, I do mostly look after them in September, make sure everybody's happy, but I think maybe in September it might have to be a phone call to them all as well, just to ensure that they are settled in the new secondary school. But it is a huge, it's a huge step for them, but hopefully we are supporting them.
And transitions are important parts of life, and we go through them all of the time, and maybe COVID-19 is just another transition that we all collectively have to go through. And last question, Jill, because I know you've got a load of stuff to do and you're really busy. What kind of confidence can you give all the parents out there, because it's the parents that are probably stressing a little bit right now about, does my kid go back to school on June the 1st, or do they return a little bit early? What's your confidence around as of today, because I know the government will come out and say something tomorrow?
Yes, well, it is changing daily. It's absolutely changing daily. I can't, some schools are ready to go on the 1st. Some schools feel as though their risk assessment, because the risk assessments have got to be signed off as well, and especially if they're closed for half term, that's going to be very difficult to put in place, because we've got to ensure the safety of our staff and our children and our parents. So lots of schools are doing it in lots of ways. I think it is very, very ambitious to expect to be open on the 1st of June.
Okay. I like to have plans, and I also like to have contingency plans. What I try not to do is to worry about stuff that is going to change on a day-to-day basis. So because we're in Shielding, our letter is, I think, June 20, something like that. So some recommendations from me, I guess, for the general public is, let's not be looking at the news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, social media, because your anxiety, stress levels, your emotional roller coaster is up and down. Let's try to pick out the things that you can do now, because this is a can-do project. There's a lot of stuff that we can't do. that we would like to do, because maybe that was the old normal, and everyone keeps using that phrase, the new normal, which I don't like either, because
I don't like the new normal.
it's just a transition, isn't it? It's not a new normal. But we have to concentrate on the things that we can do. That keeps us positive, that keeps us in a really good growth mindset, but allows us to be a little bit more aware and have some clarity on what's actually happening without worrying about the stuff that we don't necessarily need to worry about now, because it's going to be different.
Yeah, I think also as well is a message to those parents who are trying to work from home at the same time as their children, that don't read these things that all of these people who have learned a new language or lost 2 stone or sorted out their kitchen or sorted out their wardrobe into beautiful piles after nothing.
Have you been watching my house? Because
I
I've learned a new language. I've had my kitchen. I've lost 2 stone.
Don't, you know, listen to these stories, but it's not for the majority of the public. That's not happening. My wardrobe's still not sorted. You know, I haven't learned a new language. You kind of do it all. We can't do it all.
Especially when you're at work. You're still at work, so
yes,
you can't. I've been doing a lot of Zooms with the university students at Durham, where I work 2.5 days a week, and we've been kind of implementing three simple strategies every day. You have to do something physical every day, something physical, because it stimulates the body a little bit. That could be hoovering. For me, I'm running in the garden, because I'm running 365 miles for the RVI charity this year, and we're not allowed out. So I think I've done about 60 miles now in my back garden. I'm going to need a new back garden. So I think you need to do something physical, and whatever that is depending on where your current status is. I do think you should do something cognitive in terms of learning. So a new language is not a bad thing, but maybe reading a book, a different type of book as well, is the same thing. Watch something new on Netflix, a documentary instead of just a movie. So an opportunity to learn something new. And the other thing is that you just have to do something completely brand new that you've never done before. So learn how to, cut the grass, which has been my job. Learn how to paint a wall. Learn something new, because we've spent probably the last 10-20 years that I've been working in industry where people have said, oh, I'd love to have the time to do this, and I'd love to be able to do that. I've always wanted to learn Spanish, and actually there's a lot of free stuff now. There's a little bit more time. This is a great time to do something positive, and that can-do project.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. I have tried skipping. I don't know whether you've seen the video of me on. Yes, I had hopes that I was going to skip like a boxer. I'm skipping like a man at the moment, but the boxer in me is going to come out.
Fab. And I think the best new thing that you can do is to watch the 30 videos on my YouTube channel, which are all free. They're all free learning. What we've done is we put PDFs on for everybody as well. And if anybody wants to do any activities, they can do that. They can download them. We will put the Mortimer Facebook page on as well. And I have to do the whole, please subscribe and share, because it's a nice community of learning. And it's certainly a psychological safe zone where I've been asking some good questions, hopefully, and had some brilliant answers from some brilliant people. So Jill, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure, and hopefully we will see you at school soon.
Yes, I've enjoyed that. Thank you, Graham. Bye-bye.